you got the 30 seconds of discomfort, and then you're going to get all the fruit of that. That's going to linger for so long after. And when you can start to work that pattern in of like, that's a metaphor for so many things. It's like we stop ourselves from taking big steps forward in life because of momentary concepts that are actually worse than the actuality of doing it. Like getting in a cold plunge is, the fear of it is larger than actually sitting with that discomfort. How much of that holds us back in life, and we can get into the pattern of like, okay, cool. If I lean into this a little bit, I lean into this discomfort, there are results from that. I'm getting some, like I can actually get return on that. Cold plunge is just practice. It rewires that process in our body.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Invictus Mindset Podcast. Today's guest is the owner of Capital Floats and the co-founder of Plunge. One of the most awesome tools that I've used in my entire life, something I use almost every single day. I'm excited today to unpack the story of Ryan Duey. What's up, man?
What's up, brother? It's good to be here with you.
Excited to chat with you. Excited to share kind of the ideation that led to the production of the Cold Plunge. So thanks so much for making some time to connect today, man.
Yeah, I was excited when you reached out, and excited to chat all things wherever we go today.
That's cool, man. Well, looking back, this is a tool that I feel like so many people are chatting about now. Briefly offline, we talked about Kelly Starrett using the Cold Plunge. We talked about Rich Froning. We've talked about Laird Hamilton. I know Joe Rogan and his tribe are using it. Aubrey Marcus. Clearly, all of these high performers see tremendous value in the usage of this tool. At the onset, when you and your co-founder Michael Garrett were kind of tinkering in his garage, did you know that it was going to have such a profound impact?
I don't think we recognized how quickly it would take hold into the culture. And with that, I still think we're in the infant days. Like, it's very much still early adoption with people, utilizing these new form cold plunges that are coming out. But we believed in it, man. We knew it had massive impacts on our life. So it all started from there. We were literally building something that we wanted in our house. We looked at what was out there on the market. There was a price factor of like, can we get this down to this like $5,000 price point? That was really can we create a product that was like interesting, still that we thought was efficient, effective, and at a cheaper price point than what was on the market. And we believed it. We knew the impact it had for us. Did we know the impact that it would have on the thing that I've been so surprised on is the things I've learned of how it's impacting people. Like you talking before off air a little bit about it was a tool for grief you went through back when, with your dad. And I hear stories every single day of totally new use cases for the plunge. So I think that is the most surprising. We knew the impact that it had. I used it more I had an immune system issue. So that was kind of my initial whoa, cold has a major impact on me. Mike was more from a mood, energy enhancement into his life. So we knew those things, but then, the list has really become endless into the impacts that it's having with people.
One of my favorite things about it is that in a world so full of distraction, where it's like you're constantly getting tugged by that little computer box that lives in our pocket, it's kind of tough to be distracted in the plunge. Once you get in, most people operate roughly 38 to 48 degrees for most people. If you're starting off, maybe 55 to 60, and we'll get into appropriate temperatures and dosage and all that. But when you first get in there, it is an adrenaline rush. It is a little bit of purposeful anxiety where you're the newer people are very mouth breathing. It's high and heavy, very, very high stress. And over time, you start to see people get a little bit more introspective. You see the breath start to lower from high and tight to low and slow. You see the demeanor of people realizing all right, this is hard, but I've kind of calloused the resistance over time. And I don't know about you, but I almost crave it now a little bit. And it's hard to describe. It's a feeling.
I mean, we joke sometimes that it's a drug.
Yeah,
You know, it's just like, I mean, Wim says it, get high on your own supply.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's like that's totally there. And to your point, like you talk about presence. Like I think it's this very unique, it's something that's not discussed a lot, but it's meditation.
Oh yeah.
You get in there and you can get in for 2 to 3 minutes and tell me where your mind's at after.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear, it's present. It's the intention of why we meditate and why we do mindfulness activity. It is a mindful activity, and it's a great way to focus in, to actually, like you said, it's like all the things you listed, like your breath. You're going to get in there. Most people are going to, first time, they're shallow breath. Like they don't quite know how to breathe through it. The cold will, if you continue to do it, I guarantee it'll teach you how to breathe. It'll teach you how to control yourself in high stressful situations. That is, to me, the top of the chain of what's going on here. You are learning to breathe in, high adrenaline situations. And ultimately, you learn how to surrender. That's the piece that a lot of people from the outside, it's like, I do the hard thing, cold plunging. It's like, kind of tough man situation. And yeah, that's there. I'm 100% with it. But to actually thrive with this form of activity, it's like you learn how to surrender.
Mm-hmm.
You learn how to like give in to the experience. You learn how to breathe through that. And that's actually where the magic happens, where you get in high stress and you actually can flow with it. And I think that's one of like the coolest outcomes with it. And I see it actually from like from a masculine feminine side. I see more predominantly females can learn how to breathe into the experience much better than men can. It takes men a lot longer because they want to fight the experience.
Yeah.
We want to like kind of suffer. Yeah, I can do it. And it's like the more you fight it and kind of tense up through it, the more you will struggle with it until you actually learn to surrender into the experience.
Ryan, that's the best way I've heard it described. I think it's really cool to see how you painted that picture a little bit, because surrendering to things is such a great way to practice the art of presence. You're learning to let go of the things that are kind of you're carrying around with you. Your bag of rocks gets a little bit lighter. You start to really lean into what's important in life. And it unlocks these new levels, at least for me, that I didn't know existed. And the connection factor, learning to slow down, practicing the art, I call it MVD, minimal viable dose. You don't have to be in there for 15 minutes. You can, but also, 2 to 3 minutes is really, really good. Another couple things that I've implemented a little bit are really just trying to get my breath as slow as possible. And then sometimes thinking, okay, I'm going to do 10 to 12 breaths, dunk, and then do 10 to 12 breaths. And usually that's roughly 2 to 3 minutes. And sometimes I'll have the clock going. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I like to do it to a song. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay in here while this song is on. The first time I ever did it was to the Rolling Stones song, The Beasts of Burden. And I think it's like, I don't know, 4.5 minutes or so. And I was like fighting it the whole time in the beginning. And I felt so proud of myself for getting past the song. When you were first starting, did you have little tricks of the trade that you kind of played with like that?
I love the things you mentioned. I still have structures and protocols and tricks that are like how I do it, how I go about it. Right now, it's like it's different now than it was 6 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, I'm very much into I get in, I dunk, and then I'm like you. It's like 5. It's a 6 breath pattern that I go on, which it's more inhale and then twice as long on the exhale.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the 6th breath, Miles Lucas is breath coach that I've worked with a number of times. It's kind of a hack to it's like for the intercostals, it kind of warms your body up. So on that 6th breath, it's like breathe it in, and as opposed to breathing out immediately, I kind of hold and take a swallow, and then I breathe out, and it warms up that inner spot around the organ. So in theory, it's supposed to adapt you quicker to it. And I'll go like 5 to 6 rounds of that. And then I've been doing oming. Like I've just been getting in and going om, and that has been, it's kind of been a natural, like I kind of came to it on my own, but it just warms me up quicker. So that's been my thing. And then I'll dunk at the end, kind of get another shock, come out, try and regulate the breath again. And that's my experience. But it varies every single time I've done it. I've had it to where you're saying like more like a box breathing and really trying to get my breath down to like 5-6 breaths per minute. It's a playful thing. Sometimes I'll do intervals. I'm getting in, I'm doing 1 minute, I get out and kind of do some air squats or something, and then I'm back in for a minute and do 3 rounds with it. So it varies. Me starting out, I think it was I think the first time starting out, it was more of just super focused into like, how do I just survive this? How do I, it was breath, immediately just like focusing on breath, going for that and doing it with people. That was like my hack early on, because doing it with people, I was accountable. I actually got in, and we just can go further when we're with people. We're more, when we want to stop, there's someone there to say, hey, keep going, or there's encouragement. So that's a recommendation I have for anyone starting out, is like find a group, find a friend to do a first few with. You can kind of get your baseline with that.
There's such a power to gentle overcoming of stress, or some people would probably describe it as suffering, with another human. You get to connect on this unique frequency with one another. Trident Coffee is sponsoring this episode of the Invictus Mindset Podcast. My guys over at Trident taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good and bad, and everything in between. At Trident, they're storytellers. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. They help create connections through symbology and storytelling that engage their customers on an emotional level, and this distinguishes them from other coffee brands. You can find Trident in Imperial Beach and in Coronado. They offer over 14 plus nitro cold brews along with dairy-free options. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from their keto bakery. All these options will allow you to support your health and fitness journey with Trident Coffee. They're more than just a coffee company. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Once again, that's tridentcoffee.com. Use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Take your coffee experience to the next level. 2 important factors for us over at Invictus Mindset are true care and attention to detail. My friends over at RX Smart Gear have been bringing innovative fitness tools to the market since 2009. From their award-winning Evo speed ropes, to their amazing gymnastics grips, to their line of inflatable fitness equipment, they're constantly looking to problem solve within the fitness industry. They're always allowing us to have our gear work for us rather than against us. Hop on over to RX Smart Gear and use discount code Invictus Mindset to shop their latest cutting-edge gear. Have your gear work with you and not against you. And I just love the way you described it. It was cool to start our conversation just kind of spitballing the unique usages, and there's so many ways to tinker with it, but man, just such a game changer. I know some people, I've recently changed my protocol to using it in the morning because I'm a little bit of a slower starter, and I wanted to accelerate that process and kind of shift my switch to not be such a night owl. But I don't know, man, I still crave it at nighttime. So some days I'll do it both, just because I know Wim Hof says that when we get in there, it's actually enhancing our core body temperature because of the external of the cold. But for me, it almost like cools me down, so I can like wind down when I nuzzle into the covers.
I think there's something to that.
Yeah.
Because it's like most people, I think it's our body needs to get to like it's whatever the temperature is, or we need to lower about 2 degrees to get into our deep sleep. Like the body goes through a progression. And we've heard that with a lot of our customers, that they plunge before nighttime and it accelerates. They've said like my Whoop, my Aura scores, I'm getting deeper sleep. And to me, I don't quite know exactly what's happening, but to me, we're accelerating that sleep process. And so we are lowering that core body temperature, getting into get ready for bed, where it's like most of the time I plunge in the morning. I'm sure it's like you, I get energy
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, okay, I'm ready to go. So I was early on concerned to do it before bed. But I do think it's kind of the intention you put into it.
Yeah.
You're going to get that feedback from the plunge.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is like I'm winding down for the night and I'm just trying to lower the core body temperature, maybe it is only 30, 45 seconds you get in just for a little bit, just kind of go in for that moment. But yeah, curious, when do you, before you were cold plunging in the evening or afternoon, or what was
In the evening, pretty late too, like 10, 11 at night, before I was like literally right before I would brush my teeth and get in bed.
Got it.
And I liked it, man. It was a great way to kind of wind down. There was minimal distraction around me. And like, I would literally walk over to the plunge and be like, it's me versus you, motherfucker. Here we go. And incredible anxiety and resistance. Nobody there to cheer me on or say good job. But I don't know. I felt like it developed a level of personal self-respect that when I went into the bathroom to then brush my teeth and looked myself in the mirror, I'm like, you made you proud by doing the hard thing. But it was very much a fight in the beginning. Now it's kind of gotten to the point where it's like, I'm not doing this for the external validation anymore. I'm doing it so I can be a better version of myself for the world. And I don't know, there's a peacefulness to that level of surrendering. And I don't know, I also just find it so ironic that, you know, I have a lot of friends that are like, oh, why spend the $5,000? Why not just do the horse trough? Why not do this or why not do that? But for me, like, the convenience leads to the consistency. And ironically, Ryan, like, I mean, you and I are not in any sort of formal partnership, and you see how I light up around the plunge. And it's like, I really think that this is a game changer that can unlock bouts of potential that people don't even know exist. And I find myself chatting with everybody that will listen as just a very disruptive tool. And if they don't have access, you know, cold water will help a little bit, but it's not quite the same. It's like this unique biohacking secret weapon that I'm like, hey, I'm giving you the answer to help you reach your peak expression. You choose to use it if you want to or not.
100%. With cold plunging, there are so many tools out there. I would never say it's the silver bullet or this is the end all to be all. However, and I'm into the biohacking, whatever, like self-improvement, like always looking for that edge, and not just edge, but just to like live a happier, more fulfilled life. And I really haven't found the ROI on a tool that's out there, where it's like you said, 2 to 3 minutes every single time. You're going to come out with an increased mood enhancement, a better outlook on life, a sensation within your body that's, as we understand it more, it's like increased dopamine levels. Like you're actually getting the good response from dopamine
after hard work as well, not just easy dopamine like we're seeing a lot in the world discomfort crisis.
That's exactly it. It's getting, like you said, you walk in and you look at the mirror. Like that's we could talk about that from a fundamental chemical level of what's going on there. And you have this confidence and you're looking at yourself and you're that much more respect for yourself. That's exactly what's happening here. Like, and everyone's getting that. You do that. It's not just because you did the hard thing, but your body actually has a reward system for that. It's really built into our DNA, our evolutionary process as a human being. And that's what we're activating here. And so it's, I think it's like I said, this ROI in time, and you just have to do it. That's the other magical piece. Like there are so many other things that, of course, working out, movement, breath work, diet, career fulfillment, all these things are important. Cold plunging is that one thing though. It's like, all you got to do is get in the water. It's not even asking us to move our body in some like crazy workout. It's not asking us to go run up the hill. It's like, just lay in this tub and breathe. Like the most fundamental things of being a human. and you will get the reward.
Mm-hmm.
And I get so excited on that, of the results that come from that. It's kind of like, to me, it's a fascinating thing. It's almost like pharma, the pharma mentality of take this pill and you feel this, you get this result in theory.
Mm-hmm.
That's what,
minus all the side effects, which is amazing.
Minus all the side effects. So it's like pharma, it's still going to take X amount of time for that pill to kick into your body. I'll give you this pill of cold water and you're going to get that in 2 minutes, and it won't give you any side effects, but I will far improve the results of what you're seeking from that pill, whatever that pill is, especially from we can get into that, but it more kind of on the concept of it. It's, you just got to get in and you just got to consistently do it, and the results will come, and it'll vary to each person of what those results are. It kind of will meet you where your body at. Do you have an autoimmune disorder? Boom, it's gonna boom. That we see that front and center. Like that is one of the groups that have the initial, like biggest improvements early on. Pain management, if that's the issue. If it's if you're borderline depressed or just have like you're stuck in the rut, like it'll snap you out of that. Energy, you're low energy, like you said, mornings. Man, my mornings are slugfest. Like I wake up, I can be thick when I wake up. And it can take me a while to move. And Cold Plunge is like this time machine. I get in, accelerates my whole morning.
Yep.
Like I just do it first thing. It's like I don't negotiate. I go out, I do it. And in that 3 minutes, it's like I just bought an hour of time in my morning.
Yeah.
Like it's like, boom, I'm ready to go. Like, let's go. What is my deepest work I need to do right now? My most focused work. And I just go after that. So it's, what you're looking for, it's there. And it's, obviously I have a company, we sell cold plunges. It's like, I'm an advocate of it, but I started this company more as an advocate of like, how do more people get access to this? This is like, it's more of a humanity play. Like that's been, when I started Cat Floats, it was that same thing. Like, how do we get more happy? How do we become more fulfilled in our lives? And I think there's like simple tools that are out there. And I just, I'll scream it from the rooftops. Like and I get to connect with people like you, and I hear these stories, and I hear our staff and all the people that get into it. And it's just, man, it lights me up. I was in a meeting yesterday, and we have a study going on with some people. We're trying to understand how it's happening, what's going on with them. And man, it just blows me away. It was like 4 out of 9 that we interviewed was like, it was like, from a tool standpoint, the greatest impact they've had. And most everyone else, it was like, we had multiple people that say, my greatest thing in my life is my family and my cold plunge. And I'm not saying one, and we didn't ask them to say that. It was just like, and I just geek out on that, man. It fires me up more from just makes me so happy, the impact that, people are seeing and the difference that it's making in people's life.
Yeah, man. I will absolutely scream from the rooftops with you. Like what you're doing is a humanity play. And I was very fortunate just the other day, I was able to connect with the amazing, incredible Gabriella Wright, who works with Deepak Chopra and the Chopra Foundation. And one of the lines that she said, we actually titled her episode this, but it's, joy is the only form of success. And what I love about the plunge is it is just disruptive enough, or it can help you find that joy, whether you're in a rut, whether you're stuck, whether you're overcoming grief, pain, autoimmune, work stress, a divorce, relationship issues, financial issues. It brings you back to center. There's like a nucleus there around, okay, I can be more primal. And, you and I chatted briefly offline. 2018 was a big year for me. Went through some relationship issues, lost my dad to brain cancer, went through some injuries that removed my freedoms, where I couldn't train the way I wanted to at this high-level CrossFit Games level. And, I chatted with you and said, I went up and spent some time with the XPT crew and Laird Hamilton and Gabby Reese, and he threw me in the cold plunge. And I freaked out at first, but didn't want to get out. I had encouragement because Gabby was there chatting and coaching me through. Did it with people like you described as a great starting point. And from that moment forward, I was seeking something. What was that feeling? How did I practice the art of being present? What was that, norepinephrine dump? What is this hormone thing? I want to learn more about this. What is it about the water? What is it about being barefoot, being grounded, being connected with your breath? It unlocked so many things around the bouts of curiosity. And so my question for you, Rye, is where did you develop this level of curiosity? How did you start to want to tinker with the primal facets of life? And was there something disruptive for you that took place on a personal level, very similar to what I kind of described from my lens?
It's always kind of been there for me. I mean, I psychoanalyze myself on this sometimes, like why, like where do I get curious on that? I think at the base level for me, it was like I grew up in a very awesome, loving, stable parents' household, kind of suburbia USA. And I think as kids, we either go the route of our parents or we go the opposite route, whatever reason. And it was never like they were wrong. I just wanted to go the opposite route. So I think at the core, like what that life was, it was like, okay, there's got to be something different, like curious onto it. So, for me, it was like travel kind of opened that up in my late teens, early 20s, like traveling the world and kind of like, oh, there's other ways to this. So that was, and I think it just kind of cultivated from there and it's grown at different levels.
You lived in Spain for a while, right?
Yeah, I lived in Spain, studied there during college, and then just moved back after college for 2 years. Just was like everyone was after college, you kind of get the job and do the thing, and I was just like, I don't know, something's saying that doesn't have to be. And so in my little bubble that I was living in, it was pretty radical to be like, I'm out, like I'm leaving the country, and went out there. So again, it cultivated this like a different, taking little steps like that. Like there's a different way to do things, like how it's not all what's immediately around us is not what it is in a universal sense. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to kind of do that. And I think it just grew over time. And then we were talking a little offline, like I had a big accident, late 20s, and that I felt like accelerated my life. I say it was like the greatest gift that happened to me. I was in Thailand, head-on collision, but it was one of those that just kind of shook me and was like, I wasn't unhappy. Life was good. Like had a job I really enjoyed and a profession I enjoyed, traveling. It was good. I was fulfilled, but there was like this deeper, it just kind of pushed me deeper. Like, dude, you got one shot at this life, and this could go like that. So you have some things that have kind of been sitting there that are great adventures you want to go on, but what are you holding back on? And it just kind of made me look at that. I remember in the hospital bed. So that accelerated my life after that accident big time from a curiosity standpoint. And that led me, psychedelics became a major tool that I was utilizing with a very intentional settings. Like, okay, who am I? What am I about? What are my whys? And so, from a curiosity standpoint, I think that even took me to a different level of kind of like bigger existential questions, like what is really going on here? Like, what levels of just me as a being, and then levels of I'm always fascinated into like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we? It's a whole other conversation.
I just love where you're going though with these thought processes, because if you gently peek behind me, I haven't hung it up yet, but it's that famous Banksy picture, and it's the little boy peeking behind the curtain and peeling back the layers and curious, like what's on the other side of this? Why am I here? And why am I in this bubble? And what else is out there? How do I ask better questions? And sometimes it's an accident that leads us to be introspective, to be like, whoa, this thing could be really taken away fast. I was enjoying it while I was doing it, but I think it could be a little bit better. Or I think I can serve in a different capacity, or I have levels that I haven't reached yet, and I think I can get there. And I just love who am I? What am I doing? And I've spoken to a lot of different people down here in San Diego. We're tightly connected to the Special Forces community, and you hear a lot about different elements of PTSD. And psychedelics have been a really cool tool to hear how people have used different forms of ayahuasca, sometimes in Peru, sometimes in Mexico, different types of mushrooms and microdosing And I haven't explored with that personally, so I don't have a firsthand experience, but can you maybe gently describe that and show how it relates to the gentle altered state of consciousness that you experience in the plunge?
Hmm. Yeah, I think, man, psychedelics, it's like, it's a great, for me, it's a great tool. Or where is a similarity that I will say? For me, psychedelics is a place that I can get uncomfortable. It's an environment. You know, each psychedelic is very different. Let's say ayahuasca, it's something I work with consistently. But it's an environment that, you know, life for me. I don't live with the greatest. Yes, I challenge myself. I do the cold plunge. You know, run a company. It's hard. You know, there's a lot of challenges there. But really, in the sense of like true, like how am I challenging myself? You got to kind of manufacture those environments. You know, I totally recognize kind of my situation and the privilege and where I'm at. But psychedelics, I get there's no bullshit can rise. And there's a place in there every time I go in. I'm not one that actually loves it from a like, ooh, I can't wait to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not really for me. It's kind of like cold plunging. It's like I don't want to do this, but like I know what's on the other side. Like I know by doing this there is fruit on the other side, and that fruit could be just being lighter, seeing a new something that happened in a new perspective. Like, you know, psychedelics work in very mysterious ways, but kind of like cold plunging. I get in and I know I don't want to do it every single morning, but I know and then afterward there's going to be, by getting uncomfortable and facing a challenge, like there's um, I gain a lot from that. And, you know, psychedelics, it's a ayahuasca especially, it's like they're could get into the specific journeys and what comes up and all the stuff that is there. And it's a fascinating world. But ultimately I think I do it is like it's a look under my hood. It's a check-in that I can't really run from. That I want to witness what maybe I'm not seeing, what I am not seeing, you know, what I don't know that I don't know, and get a new angle onto something. So that's how I've utilized the tool.
It's primal
And
exploration, it sounds like. And
it absolutely is.
it's gently
It's
uncomfortable, it seems, but the willingness to tiptoe in the land of discomfort, you know, it's a statement I say every time I plunge. I never want to do it, but I regret it every time I don't.
yeah, nailed it. That's it, man. You got it's like today I'm with my buddy. He's my trainer. He comes over and he's like, I'm not. We cold plunge after, and he was like, I'm not gonna cold plunge. I'm not plunging today. It was kind of cold out. I was gonna get in. I do it every morning. He does it every morning too. And he was like, I'm not gonna do it. And then I got out and I was like, you know, you're getting in there. And he's like, yeah, there's no days off. Like, you know, and it's like told him they had this little story, and I get it. Like every single day, it's like I know it's you got the 30 seconds of discomfort, and then you're going to get all the fruit of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to linger for so long after.
Mm-hmm.
When you can start to work that pattern in of like, yeah, that's a metaphor for so many things. It's like we stop ourselves from taking big steps forward in life because of momentary concepts that are actually worse than the actuality of doing it. Like getting in a cold plunge is everyone, the fear of it is larger than actually sitting with that discomfort. And it's, you know, how much of that holds us back in life. And we can get into the pattern of like, okay, cool. If I lean into this a little bit, I lean into this discomfort, there are results from that. I'm getting like I can actually get return on that. Cold plunge is just practice. It rewires that process in our body. It's not natural for us to do the uncomfortable thing. As humans, we want to find comfort. We find it's an ingenuity that we have. We make things easier, and which is great. I love technology. Cold plunging, we created technology to make this actually easier to do something uncomfortable. But we have to work in these uncomfortable polarity to it. Like it's just essential. And like you said, from a dopamine standpoint, from a like actually a breakdown of like a core essence of our biological setting, it's important that we understand these mechanisms and these levers to, live this vibrant, healthier life that we want to live.
Mm-hmm. It's so cool how you can use metaphors from the cold plunge for so many other things. And it goes back to the story that we tell ourselves. And the story is usually anxiety ridden. And then when you do it, you're like, okay, that actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But we make it up to be so bad that it creates all these walls. And
Totally.
I just think overcoming resistance is so important. It's something I chat with a lot around the book, The War of Art. I actually have it over here by Stephen Pressfield. And the resistance of the plunge, I feel like, is so metaphorical to the resistance that we face in life. And I just love the parallels. There's a reason why, I'm so infatuated with this tool. And, I'd love to understand now, because I have not done anything in a float tank before. And I know that's where you started. And was that after your accident in Thailand, when you were kind of just trying to find, something that allowed you to just be? Like somebody said it to me a while back, we're human beings, we're not human doings.
Mm-hmm.
We're always do. After your accident, what were you searching for? And is that what led to the float tank development?
It totally was. I had never floated. This was back in beginning of 2013. So it was still a pretty fringe, weren't many places to go do it. So twofold. I came out of the accident. I had decided at that point that I was going to go down to Peru and work with ayahuasca, which was, again, a very radical thing at this time. This is not 2022 where it seems like everyone you've heard it's in movies and all. It's like this was a time where it was like I was scared to tell my parents. I was scared to tell friends. Anyways,
there was so much judgment in the beginning, and now it's starting to float to the surface as a really
totally
valuable tool.
Exactly. And so at that moment, I was twofold. I had coming out of the accident. My neck and back were needed. They're pretty fragile places. And so I was like, okay, I could use a float tank to kind of heal that. I thought that would be an interesting tool. So it was that. And then it was also like, okay, in a year I booked it. And it was a year that I was going to go down. In a year, I was going to go to the jungle. And I was like, I need to kind of have some spiritual practice. Like I went in with the intention of actually spirituality. Like, what is spirituality to me? That was kind of what I was shooting for with going down to the jungle. So I looked at the float tank as a way to engage on an internal journey. And like, okay, I don't quite know, I guess, how to do this or whatever. It was kind of conceptual. So getting in the float tank was that access to be like, okay, let's be with myself. And at that time I was so into that. Like it just became cool to me of like this place in San Francisco that it was called Float Matrix. And it was like these old school coffin style float tanks that aren't really around anymore. The original Samadhi float tanks. It's like this hatch that you climb in and there were like 4 in a room together, very Matrix style, like this kind of harvesting, like this harvesting room that you go in and get in your float tank and someone would knock on it when it was over. And I just, being in my 20s, I just thought, wow, what a cool, what a fringe world. I thought it was such out there people doing it. And then when I got there, I was like, these are very normal people. Like, this is the guy, the woman that I'm walking down past all day on the streets. Just, the lawyer, the mom, the marketing manager, like all these things. It was like they were just coming out from their float tank. And I was like, oh, this isn't as weird. There's something to this. This isn't as weird as I'm projecting this out to be. And so floating very quickly became this, again, like similar to how plunge blossomed out of it. It was like, this is incredible. I love this. I want to share this with the world. And so immediately, I guess, from wherever it's my entrepreneurial nature or whatever, like, okay, how do I get this out to more people? Like, how do I make this in a way that's more accessible? And so that was, floating was that to a T. Just like, okay, people will come do this. And there was also a piece to it of, I think at the core, I always wanted to create the community that I wanted to be around. I saw these people coming in and out of the float tank, and I just wanted to talk to them. Like, they were so interesting to me. These weren't people in my normal day to day that was doing this type of activity. And I was like, this is what I actually want to talk about. This is who I want to connect with. And so it was a twofold of like, man, if I can get more people doing this, I think more people are going to be, finding that peace. And I get to be around these people.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a very much like a self-interest to it of like, if I just worked at this front desk all day and I just talked to people that came out of a float tank, like, that'd be the most incredible life. So that was kind of what set me out.
It's so interesting you say that, because I find that when something disruptive happens, you're seeking this connection with self and this unique ability to go introspective, because you've tried to distract, deflect, and bury for so long, and you realize, okay, what I'm doing isn't working. I need to try something different. So you go on this spiritual journey, and that can be float tank, that can be psychedelics, that can be plunging, that can be breath work. For some people, it can be religion. It can be all sorts of things. But then what I come to realize is after there's connection with self, there's unique access to better questions. And the irony is, the people that have the courage and bravery to go on that self-inflicted journey typically end up wanting to create a podcast, because then they want to go on this spiritual journey thinking, well, I asked myself all these questions and it worked and it helped me move the needle in the right direction. Now I want to chat with all these like high performers and people way smarter than me to help share those nuggets with the world and understand their journey up until that point. And then also, like we described before, what's on the other side once they started to practice some of these things and then start a podcast. You see it, and it's super cool to like, I don't know, connect with people like you that are a part of like that gentle tribe. You got that little smirk on your face because you're like, he's kind of onto something.
Yeah, well, I smile because to me, like, whenever something has a paradox built into it, to me, that's like, there's universal truth there. Like, nothing is black and white. Mm-hmm. And so you're talking about, it's what you're sharing is people start a podcast for two reasons. I want to share. I want to make impacts on people's life at the community level outside of myself. Mm-hmm. And then there's absolutely a self-interest of, I just want to learn more from other people. And there's like, and someone could look at that and be like, well, that's selfish, or, oh, that's very noble. And it's like, well, it's all of it. Mm-hmm. I'm carrying both in that. And so I heard you say that, I always just listen for when there's paradoxes present. And to me, that's like, lean into that.
I think it's such an organic way to learn. I love listening to other conversations and, in a podcast form, not like creeping on people at the coffee shop. Because it's like getting a real life MBA. There's so much you can learn from, a classroom setting, but it's limited. Like personally, I learn more from doing and making mistakes and then trying to improve upon those mistakes. And it's fun and interesting to hear the journeys that other people go through and the mistakes they've made, what they learned, what they saw versus what I thought I saw based on the description of their experience. And it's incredibly fun. And, you've recently kind of gone on the podcast journey. And how's that been for you? Has it been super fun? Do you feel like you're learning a lot and sharing a lot and chatting with very interesting people?
I am, infant, 10 episodes in. It's man, to your point on like podcasts, it's like, it's such a intentional conversation. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like you're mining, it's an intent to mine for wisdom, whether from both sides, mostly as when you're hosting, I always feel like a successful podcast is they go somewhere they haven't been and pull something out that really hasn't been shared to the world about themselves. But it's a very intentional moment to have a conversation. And I think, from a podcast standpoint, learning a lot, learning how to grow a podcast, learning the production side of it, very different being interviewed to hosting a podcast. Mm-hmm. It's a totally different mentality. So it's a very different muscle. I think for me, from the podcast standpoint, is like really finding the niche. It's like, you try and be too much, you end up becoming nothing at all. Mm-hmm. And so like, what is the, for me, and I'm still sharpening that, like, that's a journey that I'm on, like, what is the podcast about? So for me, it's kind of been like, I was looking, originally it actually started through Plunge. We meet these incredible people, and it was like, we'd go on these trips, and I'd be there, and I'd be wanting to talk hours with these people, and Mike would kind of be like, dude, let's go. Like, this is great, but like, and he was finally like, dude, you need a podcast. Like, we need to get you a podcast so you can have these conversations with people. And I was like, absolutely. That's what I love to do. But it's been a, learning into like, okay, what is that actually, what am I trying to get out of the podcast? And so it's been a learning. It's where I'm at right now. Like, how to narrow in who is the audience, what are the actual specific things that I'm interested in. And sometimes I'm so broadly interested that like, I think from a listener standpoint, it's like, what am I like, this is kind of all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And so from a podcast standpoint, that's kind of where I'm at right now, learning to ask like much better questions, listen better. And it's like a fine line too of how to come in with a plan and then also let the conversation unfold.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, I come in with some pre-questions and like, okay, this is where I'm trying to get it. But then also it's like, there's magic that just happens in it.
Yeah.
And you just got to flow with it.
It truly is. I describe it a little bit as being lost. And I think our world in general they're always reliant on Google Maps, right? And it's like, we're so fearful of getting lost that we never actually want to start, if that paints a picture for people. So what I love about the conversation is, no, let's actually get lost. I want to see what ignites your fire. I want to see what gets you to come alive, because I know you've done magic in the world, but I'm curious as to like, what were the stairs that you climbed in order to get to that peak place to create that magic? This episode is brought to you by Mush. My friends over at Mush created an incredibly cool product of ready-to-eat overnight oats. And for those of you that listen to the podcast often, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And Mush has done just that, as their products have no more than 7 clean ingredients that are dairy-free, gluten-free, with no added sugar. Mush started right here at Invictus, as they had a vision to create convenient, healthy, and clean nutrition. And this landed them on Shark Tank, where the famous Mark Cuban invested in them. Now they're found in retailers all over the country, including Costco, Sprouts, Target, and Whole Foods. Check out my friends over at www.eatmush.com. Breathing, movement, circulation, digestion. What do all these body functions have in common? Our muscles. There are over 600 muscles in the human body that are responsible for supporting our daily activities. That's why your muscle health is incredibly important. On this podcast, I always discuss seeking our peak expression and striving to maximize our human potential. And so I try to share with you the top products that I find on the market. My H&B is a clinically proven ingredient that has been shown to help build and maintain lean muscle mass, increase strength, improve recovery, and enhance body composition. Learn more about your muscle health at myhmb.com/Invictus. Once again, that's myhmb.com/Invictus. Enhance your muscle health and enhance your life. And that leads to kind of my next spot with you, which is, you saw the benefits of the float tank. You saw the types of people that were going there, and you were incredibly interested to chat with them. Everybody's sitting on the couch with a fucking idea, Ryan. How did you kind of take that leap to think, okay, I need to figure out a brick and mortar space. There's a real estate component. I need to figure out how to get these devices. I need to figure out the cleanliness, the sanitation, the ingredients, the processes, the procedures, starting the business corporation. How did you kind of take that step after the ideation around, man, people are getting benefit from this that I feel, and I want others to receive that? Because that's a great visionary piece. But then there's, the building blocks behind the scenes that most people don't see.
Yeah, I think it's not getting caught into all the checklist things you need to do. And it's like, it's a very simple statement. Everyone probably hears it, but it's like, just do the next thing in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's literally it. Like, whether you're Elon Musk to someone starting a bakery, like, you're literally just, you'll figure out like the thing, like you said, how do I, how do I file for an LLC? How do I, go through general contractor negotiations? I had no clue, and I still wonder if I even have a clue. But it's like you just kind of do it. And I don't think I'm an expert at it, but I think some of the things that have helped me is, speak it outward. Like say the things you're like, not the grandiose, like that's fine. You could say, I'm going to build a global company and I'm going to do this, but like, just say the thing that you're going to do in that process. And then people, we naturally we hold ourselves to that level. We tend to, our word is important. Who we are, we want people to believe us. So I think it's important to say like, hey, I'm going to do this. And you just kind of do it and you figure it out along the way. There's no real magic. I wish there was a way. You go to school and you learn all these things, and you whatever that school is, it just doesn't exist. It's literally like you talked about it earlier. It's the act of just being in action and doing the thing. And it's, I think we get caught up into what step 10 is, and step 10 will present itself when step 10, like, it's no point of even thinking about that, because the first thing to do is, 10 will unfold. Step 10 will come. It might be, for me, a float center, how it started, man, it was like step 1 was, okay, floating. And then it was, for me, it was a business plan. And I did a business plan for like 6 months, which was probably longer. I got into the actual research phase, which I think a lot of us get stuck in. It's kind of this perfectionism. It's actually, we're actually scared to actually do the big next step. So the business plan was, like I said, I spent 6 months, every projection detail, every code, everything. That was interesting, but I was doing a research project. I wasn't actually getting down to the action spot. And to me, the action was I needed to raise money. Like I didn't have money to start a float center. So it was like, how the hell do I go get this $300,000 that I need to start this company that I don't have? And that was actually what I was afraid to do. And the business plan was important. It showed there was a level that needed to get done of commitment. So people believed that I knew what I was talking about. But at the end of the day, I actually just needed to go talk to people and start selling them on this concept of floating and what I think it could do, and them getting to believe me that I'm going to see this project through. And I was afraid to be told no. So that was my thing that kind of held me back, of like people not believing in me and facing that rejection. And once I got on the court there, then things started to unfold. Then, I got a bunch of no's, and then I finally got a yes. And I remember being like, came out of nowhere. A buddy's like, dude, I got 15 grand, I'll give you. I was like, whoa, this guy's going to give me $15,000. Like, what do I bet? It's like, I'm fucking making this happen now. And then it's like, then you get a little more confidence. And then I'm on to the next one, and that pitch is a little bigger. And then I get, $40,000 on this. It's like it builds. So it's like, just get the little W's along the way, and momentum becomes, when you have it, never relinquish it, and respect the process to get it, because it doesn't just happen and you got to work for it. But when you just stay consistent, you will get momentum.
I love the way you describe that, man. There's a famous statement. There's so many things that I want to unpack from what you said, but the first one is there is magic in there. And the magic is, I heard this from somebody, I forgot who, but the word is abracadabra. It's an Aramaic term that means, with my word, I create. You put the spoken word out, and now it becomes real. It's not just playing ping pong in your head anymore. It's kind of like writing fills the gaps within our thinking. These are things that I like to say a lot. But when you say it out loud, you're like, oh, that actually creates action. And I mean, I say to people all the time, you'll learn more from door-to-door knock in sales or cold calling people. You'll learn more in 1,000 calls than you will from reading any sales book, because there's an emotional component. There's an expectation that you're trying to get to, but those no's and the body language and, the analogy of getting the door slammed on your face or the phone hung up on you, you can feel that at your core. But then that first yes, you're like, whoa, what was my pitch? Was it the picture that I painted? Was it the passion? Was it the benefit that they're going to get? Is it a tax write-off for them? What is the game that, we're playing here, and how can I set them up for success, which is also going to set me up for success? It's like this reciprocative, unique conversation. And once you have a little bit of success, you're like, okay, let me fine tune the way I delivered that. Let me trim the edges a little bit. Let me shine this. Let me tenderize the soil a little bit so I can have a better presentation each time. And I just love the way you described that. You overcame the resistance of the no, and you got a couple yeses. You started building that momentum. And then, Ryan, what came next?
Then,
like, did pressure arise at all? Because now you had this pocket of money, and you're like, oh, man, I really have to figure out how to deliver on this now.
Yeah. I mean, it was going through that. I was totally underfunded for capital floats, and that was more of my not really understanding what it was going to cost to get a float center open. And so, which in the reality, I'm very great. I was able to navigate it and get it done. But I'd received money, and it was through basically family and friends around, people, a friend that I knew growing up, and I, get back in contact with, and then, people he's connected to. So it just kind of happened. And back to the point of like why they got into it, I look back of like anyone that's listening, it's like raising money. It's like, yeah, you need to do your homework, you need to do your diligence into like presenting. At the end of the day, anyone that's investing is investing in you. And it's about, like you said, your word. Like, does your word match your action? And I just want to harp on, like, for everything I've learned in raising money or getting people in, it's like, it comes down to, do they believe in actually what you're going to do? And making sure that our actions are matching that. And I always think back to, there's a pod, it was on, I think, How I Built This. And just the common theme of people raising money. It's like, they always talk like, okay, you got told no 100 times by, different people. But then you eventually got a yes. Why? And they're always like, well, we actually just did what we said we were going to do in the pitch. So we pitched the company. We said, here's our plan for the next year. This is where we're going to go. Or this is what we're going to attempt to do. Cool. We're not interested. They call back, a year goes by. They reach back out to the funding company, the venture firm. What have you guys done? Oh, we literally said what we were going to do. We're interested. Like, that's how most deals get done. Unless you have the most unique idea and you've been this founder that's launched multiple companies, it's literally about just doing what you say you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where magic happens. And it's really not that complicated. So I think that's like the piece to it. And then for me, raising that money, it became, it was just every day doing something that was just moving the process forward. I remember building out Cap. I didn't have any money. I was personally, I put all my money into this company. I had maxed out credit cards. I would go to San Francisco, moved to Sacramento to start Capital Floats, and would go to San Francisco to drive Lyft and drive like 16-hour days, drive back home, wake up, and then I'd be at, it started with trying to find a building. I remember we were needing to find a building. I couldn't convince. That was a whole journey that I went on of like landlords. A concept. This is back in 2014, 2015. Float tank. There was no float center in Sacramento. So most people didn't even know what that was. So they're like, why would I give my building to you? Like, why, this is a big, yes, you might pay me, but like, I need to know that you're not going to go bankrupt. They're not really protected if a company goes bankrupt from a landlord perspective. So I had to again, selling them that, hey, I'm going to do this. I will make this succeed. And of course, everyone says that, but it's like, how do you show that to them? So we got turned down. It was like 6 months of getting turned down. I looked at every building in Sacramento. Nothing came through. And then one of the guys that invested in me in the company, in Cap, good buddy of mine, he decided to purchase a building. And he was launching another company, and it just really, it went from no prospects to, oh my God, we're moving forward. We have a building and we need to get this going overnight, basically. And so then it was, that's everything changes in an instant. And then it's like, cool, now we're into like contractor mode. How do we get contractors, materials, like, all the vendors and getting things specced out? Because it was so focused on what was at hand was we need a building to actually do this. There's no point in getting a contractor involved. There's no point in, buying the float tanks and doing all the stuff. We have to get a building and a home to do this. So it's, each process, it varied. And through that run, I took myself to the limit. Like that was a very challenging window for myself. Learned a lot on, ideally balancing myself in, I think I've learned a lot from starting plunge in comparison to capital floats and kind of what I went through. But yeah, it was always that pressure of, for me, it was like, I didn't want to let down the investors. Like these people gave me their money. Like I knew them personally.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I am going to figure this out to make sure that like you bought into me and I'm not going to let you down. And like that drove me to the finish line.
I hate to say it, but subtly, fear is a really good motivator.
Totally. It sets the, yes, fear of being fear of being outcasted, fear of not being capable. I think there's like a balance to it, and I think over time I've learned to see that in a more healthier sense, and how to I think there's a way to play in it and not be in it.
Mm-hmm.
And with CAP, I had a big vision and mission, which I think propelled it and kind of that overcame. But yeah, I was living in a fear mindset of like, oh my God, it's all gonna go away tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing's gonna, even when I built it, I had nightmares for like 2 years that I would just wake up. This was consistent, that the building was just, I woke up and it crumbled.
Mm-hmm.
Like it all, literally the roof fell in.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a fear that took me years to be like, dude, this isn't going anywhere. Like you built this. And so I think it's important to kind of how to dabble, but fear is definitely it gets us to take action. Adrenaline is a hell of a thing.
Totally. It also sounds like during that 2-year process, you were in a very sympathetic nervous system of just fight or flight. And as a byproduct of that, it leads to those, anxiety ridden, ruminating thoughts that I appreciate you sharing that, because it's very easy to look back like, oh yeah, I learned a lot. It was super tough, but here's where I am now. But getting into the details, I think there's a lot of people that go through some of the depth of those challenges. And once you kind of got connected with contractors, how did you kind of establish an ambiance? Because you described going to the other float tank and it had like a vibe and a feeling in there that you really liked. How did you figure out like the interior design and the ambiance to try to ensure that like you're not just providing the float, you're providing a sense of home where people can feel comfortable and want to come back? And then how'd you, after that, figure out kind of, is this a membership base? Is this a subscription model? Like, what are the business logistics as to how you can make money now once you're operational?
Yeah, I think from floating, the thing that I loved was the experience. Like, float tanks are awesome. It's this personal experience that happens. It's cool when it's in there. But to me, the magic always came after the float. It was like you went in to the float, and it was about the results you received, like the sensation, the insights, everything that came post-float. That was kind of the magic to me. So from an ambiance standpoint, I thought there was an opportunity to create a very large, what we call like a post-float space. Like this is a region where, yeah, you have your private room with your float tank, and it's a very interpersonal experience. But you come back out after, and you can be in this space of art, books, tea, couches, very cozy, where you start to intermingle with other people. And it can be your personal experience and you don't have to engage with anyone else. Or there's like think of like the most cozy waiting room, living room, but it was in the back of the house. It wasn't in the front. Like when you walk into our first facility, it's like you walk in, it's just a front desk and you're kind of there and it's just like, oh, this is cool. And then you take you back to the back and it's kind of people's eyes light up. It's like, whoa, what is this room? Like this is all the art's way more vibrant. We have this open space. It's kind of this, place to hang and really connect. So that was important to me into creating that experience that people came out and had. It was almost like I wanted ideas to ripple out of there. I wanted, you got in the float tank, but what's it for? It's for to, enhance our lives and to enhance our communities. Like and you're in this present and beautiful state that I wanted to create an environment where things could ripple out of there. So that for me, that was what was important. And then from a practical standpoint, my sister she's much more interior design focused and gets that stuff, and that's not my skill set. So I just basically told her, I want this experience. This is our place. I have $3,000. How do we make this place? That's your furniture. That's everything. Like and she worked wonders, so that was the actual interior design. You go into the first one. We've since gotten rid of this, but she found a piano on the side of the road and painted it and made that the T-bar. We have like an old box spring mattress that still hangs from the ceiling that it's a chandelier. And people walk in and they're like, whoa, this is so, it's like we were very thrifty on a budget. So from an interior design, I give her so much credit for that. And it was more of just a feeling that I wanted to invoke. And then she went and carried that out.
That's super cool. I also love, what I'm hearing as well is you knew your strengths. So you started to delegate some of your weaknesses. And that goes into the process of knowing your personnel, KYP, and really learning how to manage people, which, as you know now, maybe you didn't know it at the time, that's a huge part of running a business. Managing people is a little bit different than managing a product. Were those things floating in your headspace at the time? Were you thinking about how to have employees and kind of grow the business so you could work on the business and not so much in the business? Or were you doing it all in the beginning?
Yeah, I was definitely doing it all. I think my previous job before Capital Floats, I was in management, and I liked it. I liked that, really empowering people and like being a support system for people and like how do we do things as a team, like that was a interest to me. I had an intrigue to improve there. And I envisioned that with Cap. And I think with Capital Floats, it was, I was doing everything and I liked the team development, but it was also unique, something that I didn't quite get to experience with Capital Floats because in the facility, you have one person working at all times. So it's not like this environment where everyone's kind of working together. We have a team. Everyone loves the facility. They're passionate about floating, but it's not, a lot of like part-time workers. So it's not like a career development type place. It's a personal development type place, which was awesome. But I felt once I got Cap open, I realized really quick, like, oh, I don't think this is going to satisfy that desire I had. I really wanted, I worked for the San Jose Earthquakes in professional soccer before Capital Floats, and I just loved an office environment. I loved being around people. I loved a mission that we were working on, and I missed that. And so I think it is, with Plunge, that's become much more of an interest. But to your point, it's like, it's a very different managing people and really understanding what our needs and desires are and what motivates people and types of people and types of positions. Like, man, that is a real skill and a real art to improve it.
It sounds like you really studied it a little bit. I love the way you described that career versus personal development, because they are different, and just creating that expectation at the onset is very, very cool. And then you were punched in the face with the global pandemic where operations shut down. And, at the time, it's almost like another life accident. But in reality, that's kind of what led you to meeting Michael.
Yeah. So I'd met Michael, I'd actually met Michael back in 2015 because he owned Reboot Float and Cryo. So we were the only, in San Francisco he'd opened. I moved to Sacramento to start Capital Floats. It was the only place in town. Him and I had a very similar story. I walked in, I was like, dude, we're going to become friends. And we became friends from that moment. So him and I got to know each other really well over those 5 years as buddies. Like, we developed a deep friendship first, did some working stuff together, but it was more of a friendship. But then, when the pandemic hit, just like everyone, threw everything into what I thought, the biggest thing I learned from that is like how much I thought I knew I was in control of things, like what I just thought life was on cruise control. This is how life is. And then that was like, oh no, like I flew to Hawaii March 11th or 12th of 2020 for a vacation. Within a week, I had closed my business down, not knowing when I was going to reopen it in Hawaii. That's how quick it changed. It's like a dream vacation to, oh, my one livelihood is shut down. And we're in the midst of launching another one in 2 months. And all the money was into it. We were deep into we're running out of money. We had to get open. We were in a sprint to just get open. And so all this was like, whoa, you were so certain into how things were going to play out. And that is, yeah, there's predictive patterns that we can look into, but man, you don't know. Ultimately, like you don't know. So for me, that was a super, for everyone. I think it was probably a very challenging window, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknown. For me, it was business shut down. My one major income source was dried up, really nothing there. My girlfriend and I have multiple years broke up. I've since got back together, but it was this window of like, man, my life just crumbled in front of me.
Yep.
Had to move out of my house because I didn't really have like from a financial standpoint, didn't know when I was going to get income back. So I bought an RV and moved into an RV because I just needed to completely downsize and like try and get control of the financial situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because we were a business that was completely indicative on people coming in. This wasn't a business that was, some online business where we can get revenue and things like that. Luckily a number of our members said, we'll stick with you guys while you're closed. But all those things kind of transpired. And so it was a really, really challenging window. And equally, it was like the soil to plunge. Like it actually became the opportunity. The business was shut down. Michael's inventing the cold plunge in his garage. He had just happened to move to Sacramento, and he's out, creating this cold plunge because now he has time because Reboot's closed. And so he's pitching me on starting a business. And I remember at first it was a no for me, or I was just like, I don't know. Like I have so many other things going on, man, like to actually go in and give what I would want to give to launching a company. I don't know if I can do this. And it took me a little while. And ultimately what transpired was I saw his ability to invent and engineer. And I knew he had a skill. Mike's very unassuming. He doesn't really talk about his skills, but he is an elite engineer. And I saw that very quickly into what he was developing in his garage. And I was finally like, okay, like that's not my skill set. And this can be something really special that is not out there in the world that I think can have a massive impact. So it did become, September 2020, we put a website up and emailed our customer bases from our float centers and said, hey, we'll build 20 of these. Who wants to buy them? And it, the rest is it grew very rapidly from there into, people. The website looked really slick. The coldplunge.com domain, people thought we were a much bigger company than we were back in late 2020, taking customer service calls from the garage and cutting PVC pipe. And then we get an order from Florida. And it's like, oh shit, we need to ship this to Florida. Like, how do you ship a cold plunge? It was like, the plunge was definitely built out of like there wasn't really a business plan. It was like the product was understood, but everything outside of that was completely unknown. So to your question of like, okay, how do you do these things? It's like, well, we just, you learn to ship a product. And after 10 times that it was breaking on the way, we figured out what to do to not have that happen. And it costs a lot of money to fix those people's units and have the lessons we learned. But it was, by moving that speed and just kind of jumping in, I think it accelerates, like you said, you actually learn how to do it, as opposed to if I would have studied shipping for 3 months, we still would have had issues. We're never going to solve every problem, but by doing it, we solved a lot more problems a lot quicker.
Just creating the imagery in my head, like seeing you guys playing in the garage and kind of like bullshitting with each other back and forth. I can't help but also notice that, like, I don't know, it gave you a semblance of control during a time of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And there's a metaphor there because when you're inside the plunge, there's all this external, right? There's the cold, there's the breeze, there's the stories, there's life stress, but you're actually in control of you and your breath and, some of your thought patterns. And it's just cool to see how the capital floats bled into this. You had haywire going on, mayhem in your life at the time, downsized, different challenges. And eventually Michael actually sold you based on action.
Hmm.
And you know, that also leads into what you said previously, do what you say you're going to do. You're now selling people based on action. And so there's lots of paradoxical, you know, parallels here and cross bridges that I'm seeing. And I really do want to highlight the shipping process, at least when I got mine. Top notch, man. The guys, you know, carried it off of the big truck, placed it where I wanted it placed. You know, there's a specific protocol for them to, you know, follow, which I could really tell. They asked the right questions. They were very careful with it, unpacked it, took the packaging stuff with them so it didn't, you know, clutter my trash can. And then there's a QR code right there. I can scan the QR code and follow the step-by-step videos filmed by you, which are very articulate. There's a great vision of the plunge, so I know exactly how to set it up, which I'm not a tech guy. You know, I'm not a very good handyman. So the fact that you made it simple for my dumbass to figure out was very, very cool. And I mean, you guys learned, you could really tell that you went through the processes and procedures and then found a way, you know, not only to have the function, but the aesthetic is cool, right? You have that extra piece where you can cover up some of the hard wiring. So it's a good vision piece in your backyard and doesn't look like this like robot. And yeah, man, there's a very eye pleasurable aesthetic to it as well. And then obviously that leads to what? A YouTube channel, instructional videos, and then later on content of testimonials from people like me that are getting tremendous benefit. And it's just cool to see how each step of the way, you really didn't know what was next, but you just kept trying and kept doing it and doing the thing. And then it unlocked new levels. And I mean, you guys are crushing it, man. There's lots of other companies now trying to come out with something similar. And I don't know, just from my humble opinion, it's not quite there.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, from a competition standpoint, we invite that. I think that's healthy.
Yeah, I
We
agree.
want that. You know, it's more people cold plunging, the better. More people having these testimonies and these impacts with it. So we're excited for where it's all going. I think from your point on the videos, I appreciate that feedback because I'm one like I pay people to screw in a light bulb. So I'm like the guy. It's a joke, like in the company. Like if I can do it, like yeah, exactly. It's like if I can do it, then anyone can do it. So it's like it's very intentional that I'm doing the videos because I speak in a language that's I don't know the right terminology, so I try and say very practical things, very clear. It's like if I could understand it, then I trust 99% of people are going to understand it as well. So it's it makes me feel good that was helpful for you because
Yeah,
I can
man.
relate to.
And then also to even
Um,
take it a step further, you know, when you have a horse trough every couple weeks, especially if you have people over, you're dumping the whole thing out, you're cleaning it. Like it's super tough to like get in there and, you know, scrub every last corner. And you guys have a really cool water maintenance protocol. You give specific feedback as to how to create longevity with the PVC piping, with optimal flow, with the usage of the chiller, with the usage of temperature control and using the specific technology associated with it, how to plug it in appropriately, you know, what to do with the specific chemicals that are, you know, not overly powerful on your skin. And, you know, some people like to shower post plunge, some people like to not. And there's a yin to the yang to all of these things, but there is a protocol for sustainability. And that way it's not overly complex. And the
mhm.
main thing is use the plunge. And that's what I think you guys do a really good job of is like, hey, let's lower the barrier to entry. Let's make this as simple as possible. We tell you exactly the dosage of chemicals to put in. There's pH strips, then you can check the water. There's so many different things that are so simple that you can continue to get optimal usage without complexity of the sustainability or the cleanliness.
Yeah, so it's to your point. It's like we've learned all these things along the way. It's like we get enough feedback, and it's like, oh, water maintenance. We need to go understand this. And so then it was. So we've really tried to make this as seamless as possible, and it's hard enough to cold plunge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like we just the thing between our ears. Like telling us we don't want to. So it's like trying to remove every piece every step that is in the way that could stop us is one, we're accelerating the process of us not doing it, or enhancing the probability of us not doing it. So we find it important to make it as easy as possible, whether it's from setup and actually getting it set up to consistently working with the unit. So yeah, I'm with you where we want to make it as seamless as possible for people.
For sure, man. It's also enhancing community. I have people come over and we do rounds, sauna and ice rounds, or, integrating it with training. And I mean, you guys have connected with so many different people now, high level performers, recreational performers, everybody in between. I've seen you at the CrossFit Games now. You've kind of become a staple there, which is super cool. And what are your thoughts on some of the people that you've connected with since launching this product? And at the time you were the float tank guy, and now you're connecting.
Now I'm the plunge guy.
Now you're the plunge guy.
It's funny, yeah. It's like the new modality steps in. I mean, meeting people, this is the best part of the whole gig. I mean, connecting in, being with all across the board, whether they're world class athletes or just people utilizing the plunge. It's one of those things. Like people that cold plunge, there's something common very quick of like, oh, I see you. Like, okay, you do the thing, you'll do the challenging thing, and there's like an instant admiration, understanding between people. So, but then being around people that are just, it's very to be around people that are lit up on life is just so much momentum around that.
Mm-hmm.
Like just getting around people and hearing like, wow, like it becomes this like magic potion that you can start to absorb. So I think I always think of the quote, like, we're average of 5 people around the most, and it's like 100%. And then that naturally is going to gravitate the extension of the 10, the 15, the 20, like, so it is we need to be mindful of the people that we're around. Like how are we speaking to each other? What is the excitement? Like, is there career fulfillment? Is there like integrity? Is there, kindness and compassion? What are the things that are important to us? Like, get around those people.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just becomes amplified. And so that's just been something that I'm some of the most grateful for in this journey of like really aligning with people that I admire, I respect. It's kind of been our North Star in how we do things. Like we want, we have the term all boats rise, where it's basically it's got to be a fuck yeah from both parties. We don't want a world where we're winning and someone's not feeling great about that, and vice versa. Like, let's do things where it's like a win. Like that's the long game here. And it's been cool to play that out in real time. I've always believed that and kind of seen that firsthand in my life. But to put it in play in a company has been, one of the coolest things, that to actually let that be a statement and a concept that lives within the company and how we go about things.
Mm-hmm.
And something I fully believe in.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally, to your question, I could talk all day. That's been the thing that's lit me up the most, is meeting with so many different people, meeting people like you coming on. It's the best part.
That's rad, man. I'm very tight with the founder of Trident Coffee, and he comes over and does sauna and cold plunge with me. And ironically, you just said, a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's one of their shirts and one of the slogans that those guys use as well. And so I couldn't help but give him a quick little shout out as he comes over and does the thing with me and helps unlock different levels for him as well. And it's super cool, man. Like, just to hear the evolution of an idea, and then the implementation and the learning of mistakes and the business knowledge that you've kind of acquired along the way. The next thing I want to jump into is, we've chatted a lot about plunging and the benefits, but how do people start? Like, if they're trying to begin this journey and they're like, man, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about these benefits. What's a good starting point for people? Would you suggest, cold showers in the beginning, jumping in the ocean if they have access? and then eventually doing the horse trough and then trying to get it to make sure it's something they'll actually use? Or what do you think is a good starting point and then a starting dosage as well?
Yeah. So there is, showers are a possibility. I think showers are great. They're going to give you that kind of rush. It is a different experience than like a full submersion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just knowing that it's not verbatim the exact same thing, but it's a great place to start. Great place to start to control your breath. I actually find showers to be almost as or more challenging than full submersion, just because it's like it's hitting your body.
The water's moving.
Exactly. It's a very, there's a lot of intensity to it. But it's a great spot. You can actually kind of get used to that losing your breath for a moment. How do you breathe through it? And we're coming into it. It's a great time. As we're filming this, it's late October. It's getting colder. So water temperatures are going to rise or lower. So you're going to get, showers are going to get colder. Rivers, lakes, any body of water that's around us here in the US is starting to chill down. So it's a good time to hit natural sources. That was how I got into it. I had a river that came through our city. So I would go jump in the river. And then now it's like if you're in some most urban environments, there is a place you could go cold plunge. So Yelp, just type in cold plunge, ice bath, or Google it. There are places to go, and you can go find a facility to hop in. Then I recommend, like you were saying, you started with doing it with people. That was my similarity. I would do it with people. Find someone that you want to do it with. It's really fun. You come out, you feel lit up after. You do it together. There's something about bonding over something challenging. So I think finding the local place, doing the shower or a local water source, great options. Dosage, I think, so if you're getting a plunge and you're going to start doing this consistently, start at that 55 to 60 range. Just set, like, let's say you bought a cold plunge from us and it came to, I'd say, set your temp to 55. Don't jump to 39 degrees. Think of it like a workout in the gym. Like you're actually working out a muscle. Maybe it's not a muscle, it's your nervous system that you have not, like that thing's been sitting on the couch. And you're now going to work it out very intensely. It's like the gym. If you have not been going to the gym for 3 years, you would not go jump in and do the Bryce Smith workout or the Rich Froning workout. It's like you're going to just get in, like, let's get a sweat on. How do we sweat? Let's start there because we want to show back up tomorrow and get the workout in, because it's about consistency here. It's like, working out one day a month or cold plunging one day a month. It's cool. There's some benefits, better than nothing, but it's not the long game that we're trying to play. Totally. So finding that, so I always recommend, around 2 minutes, 55 degrees on your first one, and more focus on breaths. How do you get it into that you can get, get into 20 controlled breaths. And I mean controlled breaths, like in through the nose, twice as long out through the mouth, like very calm, surrendering, tapping, kind of doing a body scan. Where are you tensing up? Is it your neck? Is it your hips? And just kind of surrendering into the water, and do that, and just do that. Don't even think about step 2, step 3, step 4. Like those will present itself after you do that for a window of time. And I think, and that it's finding consistency. Play the long game here. Don't go for the burnout. You will present when you want to burn out.
For sure.
And that's usually, it's like working out. You will find a time. It's like, I need to switch things up a little. Your body will let you know when that time is. 55 degrees, 2 minutes, and start from there.
Yeah, for sure. What I'm hearing is the program that works is the one that you do. And if the intensity is too high, you may do it that first time, but then you're going to have way too much resistance. It feels very, very far away. And I was very fortunate to chat with Jason Kalipa, and he was telling me how he integrates it with his kids. And they have their morning gym protocol, and then Jason and Ava kind of have a little morning routine that they do. And, he doesn't sit there and like give them specific protocols. Sometimes they want their armpits out. Sometimes they nuzzle in and get the full, thyroid in their armpits, groin action. That's going to, give you the full physiological benefits. But if that's too much, it's better to just get in there And, then over time we can get into the Peter Attia, Andrew Huberman conversation around, what parts of the body, what position should we be in? I think he talked about, as far as like optimal dosage over time, it's roughly like 58 to 62 minutes a week for sauna. And I think he talked about between 15 and 20 minutes a week in the plunge, and fitting that in, however you feel like you need to. And, there's flex within there. I think those were just like general numerical values that he kind of threw out. But I really appreciate you kind of sharing that. So that way people can integrate this practice wherever they are, however they are, and then build the confidence to see like, okay, I'm seeing the benefits, I'm feeling the benefits, and now I can take this tool and bridge it to everything else that I'm doing in my life. And I mean, that's really like creating humanity style change. Like what you and Michael are doing is really, really inspiring, man.
Appreciate that, man. I mean, the kids front's been a really interesting, like this new kind of ritual. Again, I don't have kids. So it wasn't something on my radar, and that's become this thing of like father-daughter time. That's like this new thing that they do. And we just did this big customer experience giveaway where we flew out we wanted to hear how the plunge was changing people's lives, and the winners, and we had people submit videos of how the plunge has changed their life. And we did this trip to San Diego, and the winning family, it was that, like, it was like it had become their family ritual. It had shifted how they spend nights together. And it was just like, that's magic. Like, that's what it comes down to. Like, you guys are connecting and bonding over something that lights you up now, and
Liver King would be proud to hear that. That's one of the 9 ancestral tenets for him, right? Bonding.
And he does it great. They got their cold plunge at their crib, and they're always ripping as a family. And yeah, I think it's and whether it's your family or just your friends or whatever your community consists of, is like doing it together is just like incredible. I cold plunge every day, usually by myself, but the days that I get to do it with friends or like in a workshop, it's like a first time all over again. Like I'm, so excited and coming out with this new elevated lift. So to do it in community is just this incredible, just community in general. When we do things together and push ourselves, it's what we're meant to do. We've seen it over the pandemic the last few years. Like we took our core dynamic of who we are as a species, of being connected and being with each other, and we took that away from us. And it's like we've seen what that has caused. There's a very clear trade-off to doing that. And I think cold plunge is one way to do something together, but coming back together and being in the flesh with people is imperative for us. It's who we are as a species. Yeah,
for sure. Connection is so important. And what you guys have created, what you continue to create, is incredible. But I know we briefly chatted offline that you guys have some things in the works that are coming up that are going to kind of supplement some of the cool things that you already have. What's a little tease to what we can potentially expect that can totally help optimize what you've already got going on?
I think we're gonna get in the contrast games. We're gonna go the opposite of cold and do the hot. So we've been designing a sauna for about 10 months or so. Just getting to the final. Springtime we'll be releasing that. So that's been a fun new project that it's been more of an ask from our customer base, asking if we were ever to create one, who we would recommend. So it took us on a journey of like, okay, let's figure this out. Like, how do we do this to actually match the important factors of what we see from plunging with design, functionality, ease of setup, all these things that kind of these first principles for us in putting that into the sauna. We're really excited with it. So that's a big one that's going to be coming out.
I'm excited for that too, because there is a uniqueness around just getting it. Sometimes I think, saunas have been around for a very long time. I lived in Sweden for a while, and it was a major part of our practice when I was training for basketball over there. But it's different when you're with, certain people that want to tinker, like Laird Hamilton that wants to bring an assault bike in there, or Eric Hinman that wants to do, air squats and stuff in there, and push-ups and a yoga mat, and the opportunity to to flex certain muscles within that heat exposure and get the sensation of, okay, let me see if I can open up a little bit. Can we marry the sauna practice with some sort of yoga practice? And just being able to play and explore those deep, dark corners and having the flexibility to do so, I think is very, very cool, because you guys see that, you get that, and you're trying to create options for people to do those things. And that's, I don't know, I'm excited to see what comes to the surface there.
I love that you said play. I mean, exactly. It's like I like mixing workouts up. I'm not one that can just show up and do the same thing every day. It's like, how do I make this a thing that I actually can do and want to do? And it's like incorporating. It's a big thing with the sauna. Can we get an assault bike in there? Could you get in there and do a 15-minute workout in your sauna and actually be comfortable? So I think we're always kind of trying to create the thing that's like, how would I want to do it? And so it's definitely trying to make this stuff playful and attainable. Like, this isn't you don't have to be the most elite athlete to be doing these things. This is very much consider myself an everyday person. Like, something I do every day. I have a job, I have family, like these things, like, how do these tools help? And so I think that's the big thing, is like, how do we create that it's not a thing we have to check off and do, but how can we have fun doing these things?
And you're clearly doing a great job listening. Dr. Rhonda Patrick talks about, she likes to integrate her sauna practice post-workout with an elevated heart rate. So it accentuates the respiratory effect that she's kind of integrating within her workout. And I don't know, all the things that I'm seeing you guys do, you're listening to the community. And I know you guys are on a mission to make cold plunging as common as coffee. And I love that, because I talk about it to everybody, but sometimes it's like, oh, the footprint's too big, not going to fit in my apartment, or the price point's too high. And like, these are things that you guys are having deep conversations around, trying to make it more accessible for people to gain the benefits. And it leads me to this last little bit, and that is this relationship between preventative medicine and reactive medicine. And we could have a conversation all week about that. But what I love is, alluding to what you described before around pharma, you guys are giving a version of a pill that is a low dosage that can be used every day with no side effects. That's fucking magical, if you ask me. And so for those of you listening, like, I am not paid by Ryan. It is not, anything that has a formal agreement. I'm just a fanboy over here that utilizes the plunge consistently. And I hope all of you got a ton of value from today's conversation. Anything that you'd like to add, Ryan?
Oh, we covered a lot, man. I appreciated all your questions. I think, I think cold water. It's one of those things. It's kind of in vogue right now. It's being discussed, but I want people to remember, like, this isn't new. It's maybe just bottled up into like a kind of a newer technology of how it's being presented. But, this is at our core. We've been using cold water through the history of time. So I think it's really cool. We're reconnecting to that kind of ancestral, the medicine of cold water. And so I think that's kind of what I feel like we're kind of coming back home to cold here.
For sure. What I'd like to add is the three major benefits. You touched on these on a recent video, but I 100% agree. They're probably the three biggest benefits for me. And that's more productive mornings. I'm hitting that flow state faster versus kind of that groggy, like one foot in front of the other, where I'm a little sticky and heavy in the morning. Another one that's huge is the concept of transitions. I'm going from one client to another client to a podcast to try to train. And sometimes there's emotional overlap there, where I got triggered by that email. That conversation was really heavy. I was in an uncomfortable position while podcasting. My body's a little bit tight. And what I think the plunge does is it's this huge reset from one emotion to another. Allows you to kind of compartmentalize different elements of your day. And that allows me to have more seamless transitions, which is super cool. And then lastly, just the connection with other people. We can chat about it. We light up about it. It's something that's hard. that you have to work towards improving. But then once you work towards it, it's like, pick your journey. You can make it as hard or as easy as you want. You can breathe and tinker with it in different fashions. And those are three like monumental benefits that are huge takeaways for me and many of the tribe members that I cross paths with.
Yeah, I always the plunge it's got a gravitational pull that will you let's just say you get a trough and set it up with some ice, call your friends, they'll be over.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun. Like it's something different outside of the norm of how we hang out with each other. So it's a great way to build community.
Super cool to officially meet you, Ryan. Thank you so much for engaging on an internal journey and creating a very cool product with your buddy Michael Garrett that you can share with the world and kind of enhance the conversation of peeling back the layers of the human experience.
Appreciate you, Bryce. This was a fun conversation, and thanks for having me on.
Likewise, man. For those of you listening or watching on YouTube, if you enjoyed my conversation with the co-founder of Plunge today, Ryan Duey, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Until next time. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, brother.
Are you over 35 and in need of a solid training program? Are you looking to improve your athleticism and keep up with the younger athletes in your CrossFit gym? Then look no further than our Invictus Masters program. This program places year-round emphasis on mobility and stability exercises with movements that we have seen directly benefit our Masters athletes. Our program is led by Nicole DeHart and offers a training program designed specifically for Masters athletes who are looking to compete at a higher level in the sport of CrossFit. Some of our top Masters athletes in the world train with us, including CrossFit Games champion Kevin Kester, Matt Beals, and Pat Sprague. You can learn more about their stories and the Invictus Masters program by checking out their episodes right here on the Invictus Mindset Podcast. If you'd like more information about the current training cycle or to join the Invictus Masters program, please email Nicole at invictusathlete.com. That's NICHOLE at invictusathlete.com. Breathing, movement, circulation, digestion. What do all these body functions have in common? Our muscles. There are over 600 muscles in the human body that are responsible for supporting our daily activities. That's why your muscle health is incredibly important. On this podcast, I always discuss seeking our peak expression and striving to maximize our human potential. And so I try to share with you the top products that I find on the market. My H&B is a clinically proven ingredient that has been shown to help build and maintain lean muscle mass, increase strength, improve recovery, and enhance body composition. Learn more about your muscle health at myhmb.com/Invictus. Once again, that's myhmb.com/Invictus. Enhance your muscle health and enhance your life.